Sterling First United Methodist Church. This is Tim Gabrielson, and I'm welcoming you or encouraging you to join me for our summer Sunday school series on the Epistle of James in the New Testament, which I have titled trying to capture the spirit, I think, of the book of James with the title The Wisdom of Wholeness. And we'll talk more about why I think that captures the essence of James as we go along this summer together. But there are a few things that I think we can get together this summer if you join our Sunday school series on James, which, of course, at the start of the summer, we'll start online. And then hopefully midway through the summer, we'll be able to meet in person, socially distanced, of course, but hopefully we'll be able to gather together in person. But there are really three goals I have for the summer with the study of the book of James. And the first is simply to reflect on our moral lives. This is the essence and the focus of the book of James. It is an incredibly vivid book, and it's immediately practical. It's almost amazing to read James, knowing that it's 2,000 years old, and still feeling like almost everything in here doesn't even require explanation very often. It's just immediately understood and things that we can implement into our lives each day. And that's not true of a lot of the Bible. A lot of the Bible we have to sort of reflect on what's changed culturally and through time and everything. Far less so with James. And so it's just a very easy book to jump into. And from personal experience, I know that it's very easy to teach and very easy to learn from. So that's the first thing that I hope we do this summer together, is just reflect on our moral lives and who we are as people, and as a church for that matter. The second thing I hope that we do for the summer is learn more about this historically enigmatic letter. So as clear and immediate as it is in terms of understanding the content and the morals and ethics that we should be living by, trying to actually understand the background of James, where it comes from, who wrote it, who it was written to, its structure, all of those things are actually incredibly difficult. This is a letter that the history behind it is very cloudy. There's a lot of debate among scholars about just when this was written and where it came from and all of that. But it's also, I think, incredibly interesting and sort of trying to figure out, well, what is the background for this letter? And so some of our focus in this series will also be that, is looking about sort of where this letter emerged from and trying to understand that background. And the third thing that I hope we get from this summer is providing a bridge through the Good and Beautiful series. If you've been joining us this summer, this year, in the Sunday school hours or some of the small group classes, we've been going through James Bryan Smith's trilogy of books, all of them called Good and Beautiful. So the first one is The Good and Beautiful God. Then we did The Good and Beautiful Life, is what we just finished. And then in the fall, we'll pick up with The Good and Beautiful Community. And I think James will provide a good bridge as we kind of take a break and do something different during the summer, but I think it will complement James Bryan Smith's series very well for a couple of reasons. First, because if you have been reading along in the series, and if you read the first book, on page 24 in the first book, James Bryan Smith gives a triangle of how we change in our lives. And he says we have to fix our narratives by thinking differently. We have to change our practices by looking at soul training exercise. And we have to do this in community. And then at the center of this triangle is the work of the Holy Spirit in our lives. But I think with James, we can do all three of these things. James does engage our mind, and we'll try to do that through the series. If you're joining us, we'll be meeting together on Sundays and having a time of community as well, as where we can talk about the letter and understand the letter together and talk about how it's impacting our lives. And then most obviously will be our practices. That's exactly what James is all about, telling us how to live. So I think that kingdom triangle idea that James Bryan Smith has is going to be something that we can really implement with the book of James this summer. Convenient that his first name is the same as the book. But the other thing I think it does is in the second book, the one that we just finished here at the start of May, was the good and beautiful life. And that was reflecting particularly on Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. And one of the things that we'll find with the book of James is that there are a lot of common themes between Jesus' Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 5 through 7 and the book of James. And so we're going to see a lot of the teaching in a sort of new form, but a lot of similar ideas coming up. So I think it'll really reinforce what we've just done. So I hope these three things are accomplished by our series this summer, that we reflect on our moral lives together, that we learn more about this historically enigmatic or mysterious letter, and that we provide a bridge through the Good and Beautiful series that we're doing as a church. This is how our summer will unfold. Starting here at the beginning of June, we're going to have talking about sort of the major topics of the letter and talking about why it's an enigma and who the author is, all the while reading James 1 through 18. Through the rest of June, you'll be seeing that we'll be engaging various different topics of the letter and also sort of background topics, going through chapters 1 and 2 in June, and then in July we'll be doing chapters 3 and 4, beginning chapter 5 by the end of June, and then we'll end at the first week of August with the very end of chapter 5. So that's what our summer series will look like. I hope you'll join me and others in our community for this series this summer. So I would welcome you to follow along with the videos that will be coming out weekly, but if possible, also be joining us in Zoom meetings to talk about it, so that even if you're traveling, you can join us at least by watching the videos that will come out weekly, with the church announcements on Wednesday will be the general practice. So hope you can join us this summer for the book of James.